You will never receive this message, little one. No one will ever know what took place here. No one will remember us. This message will roam the stars long after we're all gone. Maybe you're out there somewhere. I would like to think so. What makes an existence meaningful? What gives a life purpose? You will never know that you existed. But you did. What if I told you? Before the advent of Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Cawthon created over 70 other works of art. Among those other works is a gem, a game unlike anything I've played before. An experimental masterpiece of sights, sounds, and maximalist machines, all surrounding a singular coffee pot. This is the Desolate Hope. The Desolate Hope is a JRPG platformer developed over 2 years by Scott Cawthon and released on his website in April 2012, and was later made available for free through Steam in May of 2014. To this day, it remains the longest he has ever spent developing a game. The game itself is a sequel to the 2007 video game, The Desolate Room, which follows Coffee as he aids his friends on an island. What's great about this sequel-prequel dynamic sort of thing is that you don't need to know anything about The Desolate Room to understand The Desolate Hope. It's a completely standalone entry. The game isn't without its problems, and trust me, we'll get into what those problems are, but for now, let's just dive in to Scott Cawthon's forgotten masterpiece, The Desolate Hope. We open on the small monologue that started this video, and then we are introduced to our secondary protagonist, Coffee, and our main protagonist and player character, DCO9. DCO9 stands for Digital Counterpart 9, as DCO9 is the 9th computer program turned antivirus that Coffee has created. What's different about Mr. 9, however, is that they were built off the code from a game called Block Puzzler in Space, which of course means that they were a computer game. And this gives reason as to why Coffee has to explain the video game controls to you, because it's a video game. You get it. Anyways, on to the actual meat of the game. Coffee informs you of what you are and what your purpose is. He tells you that your purpose is to fight against a virus that has popped up in the station and is deteriorating the simulations of these robots called the derelicts. In other words, you're an antivirus program. To better be able to fight the viruses, Coffee lets you use his body, and he uses his more advanced CPU to help with maintaining the simulations and doing other station tasks. Once the conversation is over, our location is revealed to be the Lynne Infinis space station, located on an unknown planet. There is this box in one of the derelict's rooms that's supposed to transmit location information, but it needs a while to boot up. And by the end of the game, it starts working and it informs you that you're actually located on the moon, which is something I wasn't expecting. The game makes it seem like you're thousands, maybe even millions of light years away from Earth, but you're right there. You're pretty close, all things considered. I don't know, I just think that's cool. There are 5 derelicts on the Lynne Infinis, 4 rendered immobile over the years, and 1 that's been broken down, left cold, and forgotten. The 4 operational derelicts are Malins, Murad, Biobeta, and Alphys. Each were built by a different team of scientists to run simulations for possible human colonization of the planet. Malins was the realist, beginning his simulation with simulated miners mining simulated ore, before giving up and retreating into a Toyville utopia of his own design. Murad was more interested in the spiritual, and began trying to recreate the human soul, leaving her simulations filled with ghostly wireframe figures with the most dull of personality. Biobeta, as his name would suggest, began testing human tissue, trying to recreate the human species, but never quite figured out the soul. Thus, his simulation is full of mechanical beings devoid of character and any sort of difference. Alphys was the only one who never gave up. He completed his mission by creating domes of contained seasons and other biomes capable of sustaining life on any planet. However, there are no noted human replacements found anywhere. And finally, this is Amos, the 5th derelict who broke down right before launching his simulation. His room is now kept frozen for unknown reasons. Initially, none of the derelicts trust you to explore their simulations. That is, everyone except for the GOAT Malins. He lets you in and meets with you in his toy village, which he calls Malinville. How cute. Turns out Malins is depressed as heckles, and sends you to find the virus. Thus begins the gameplay loop of entering simulations and fighting viruses. Once you beat this first virus, the rest of the derelicts let you into their simulations. However, when you complete a virus battle, DCO9 explores the code that the virus attacked, and it's often strange and unexpected. A swing set, a program to simulate weather, a flower, a blue moon. None of it makes sense. The virus is attacking trivial components, things that you wouldn't expect a virus who's trying to take down these simulations to attack. It's weird. And what's even weirder is that Coffee actively tries to prevent Deco9 from analyzing the attacked code and brushes the strangeness of it to the side. After beating every virus in every simulation, Deco9 realizes that he's actually been fighting the station's antivirus program. Coffee then comes clean to the fact that he's not only been lying to Deco9, but to all the derelicts as well. You have been the virus this entire time. He did all of this to produce his own simulation for a human embryo called Sample 217. Sample 217 was one of the many biological samples sent along with BioBeta to the Lune Infinus for BioBeta's testing. When BioBeta lost hope in humanity's survival and began to build another human race, he planned to harvest cells from Sample 217 to do so. Coffee then discovered Sample 217 and hid it in Amos's room before freezing the entire room to preserve it. He then took it upon himself to build a utopia world inside of Amos's incomplete simulation for Sample 217 to live in. This is why he began stealing these seemingly trivial items from the simulations. Coffee pleads with you to defeat the station's last line of defense, Pulsar, before it resets the station's data, not only destroying Coffee's simulation, but it will also put Sample 217 back into the hands of BioBeta. Deco9 obliges, says the saddest line I have ever read, and then gets deactivated. Coffee puts the derelicts into sleep mode, reroutes all the station's power to the new simulation, and shuts down his body to join Sample 217 in this utopia. We see both of them in the Theta simulation, having fun, enjoying each other's company, and the credits roll. The Desolate Hope is unique in the fact that it combines 3 different gameplay styles and genres. We're going to start with the first one and we'll get into the next 2 in a bit. The style you will first become familiar with is the side-scroll platforming. Inside of the simulations and outside of the station itself, you operate Coffee's body using arrow keys like any old platformer. As I alluded to earlier, these sections make up most of the game, as it's how you complete tasks, find viruses, and basically do everything inside the simulations, which is most of the game. While in simulations, you're able to fire laser bolts from your body using X, and you have the ability to jump using Z, which is an ability it appears Coffee's physical body lacks. When you kill enemies, they have a chance to drop eggs. The game never explains what these eggs do, but it would appear they give the derelicts stat boosts in the combat sections. The pink ones also act as health, so don't run out of those. You can upgrade your abilities by interacting with various robots throughout the simulations. Robo Baby, who reminds me of Robot from Invincible, sells a hover pack, which is basically a jetpack, X-ray goggles, which allow you to see secret paths in the simulations, water boots, which make navigating Miradmore much easier, and Pickpocket, which gives enemies a chance to drop bits, which are the game's currency. The hover pack and X-ray goggles are necessary to complete the game, so you better stock up on bits to buy those, because I believe the X-ray goggles are like 900 bits. Very expensive. There are other vendors who sell items to help you out throughout the game, those being Algo, MedMed, JedMed, Sandbox, Payload, and Unam. I think that's how you say that, I'm not sure. Unam is the only other vendor who sells items required to complete the game. They sell Fourth Sight, which allows you to see and fight, get this, the 4th virus in every simulation, Viren. Purchases from vendors carry between simulations, except for some very specific exceptions. One of those exceptions being Algo, he sells something different in every simulation. It is here with the vendors where we notice a substantial issue with the way the Desolate Hope explains its mechanics. It doesn't. Almost none of the purchasable items' uses are explained. The player is just meant to figure it out for themselves. The game does have a manual, but to my knowledge, the only way to access it is by finding it in your files under Steam apps, which is not the most ideal way of learning how to play a game. This is reminiscent of how old NES, SNES, and Sega Genesis games would include and force you to read the manual to understand most things about the game, including story, some gameplay elements, some controls. And while I can appreciate that as a retro callback, as it seems much of this game is, there's a reason that that way of explaining things was abandoned a long time ago. The reason that was a thing is because, one, they didn't have like the technology and the time or money to explain all these things in their games, and 2, the controllers had a set amount of buttons and it was pretty easy to figure out what everything did. It's unfair to the player, and I could see it causing some rage in some people. Moving on from that, the game operates under a day-night cycle, so you get to explore the simulations and see everything the game has to offer in the day, and then you only do one thing at night, which is to walk in a straight line outside the station, looking for keepsakes and other items to pick up. These keepsakes are items the derelicts are fond of that, when given to them, will upgrade them. Malins collects toys, Murad collects paintings, BioBeta collects alarm clocks, and Alphys collects snow globes. We have a veritable Mr. House in here, ladies and gentlemen. You can also find resource capsules, which will give you extra bits to spend, and energy cells, which will give the Lune Infinus an extra day of power. After collecting and returning 6 items, this Space Invaders inspired minigame will spawn, and when an alien is defeated, you'll gain a small amount of bits. I wonder if this is a sign of anything greater. This day-night cycle exists because the Lune Infinus only has 15 days worth of power. Once that's up, you've lost. Game over. I like that this gives the game stakes, but the night cycles can be pretty boring and I found myself dreading having to venture out every night. If we had more things to do, like repair inside of the station or something, it would be much more bearable. But the day cycles are about twice as long as the night cycles, so it's not the worst thing, I suppose. It's just a bit annoying. As discussed previously at length, each derelict runs a simulation that was originally meant to be a possibility for planetary colonization. Malins runs Malwaste, Murad runs Muradmore, BioBeta runs Betagrid 0.9, and Alphys runs FANDOMs. Malwaste was once the most realistic and successful of the simulations, before Malins realized the futility of life and retreated into a safe haven modeled after the toys he collects, leaving the rest of the simulation to break down and die. Though I love this concept, I'll admit Malwaste's design is a bit lackluster. It's not offensively bad by any means, but it could be so much more. The mines are just this long corridor with stacked blocks of dirt, and the rafters above are more interesting, but not by much. Though I complain, this isn't something I thought about while playing, it's more of a thought I had while looking at the game as a whole, so keep that in mind. Muradmore, on the other hand, Muradmore sucks. Murad believes humanity to be lost, and by proxy is lost herself. While she tries to create a place for the soul, the above-ground landscape is mostly empty, to reflect how she doesn't know what to do anymore. But it all has this purpley portside city look, and it's pretty beautiful. It's what below that irks me. Muradmore is mostly filled with water, which makes exploration a pain. There are these openings above to enter the water, but most of these water columns aren't connected, and without a hover pack or water boots, you can't swim or propel yourself up, so you sink. And getting back up is a pain because you move so ever-lovingly slow. It makes getting anything done in Muradmore so boring and sad because you're basically running out the clock getting from point A to point B. This is by far and away my least favorite simulation. Betagrid 0.9 is a great step up from this though. Like Murad, BioBeta also believes that humanity was lost, but in his hubris he also believes he could create a superior human race. So he began building this technologically advanced civilization populated by mechanical beings, while also trying to recreate biological humans using his scientific samples sent from Earth. He believes sample 217 to be the key, but he can't locate it. Betagrid 0.9 is quite fun to navigate. It's filled with winding corridors and these vertical spaces to jump between them. The only complaint I have is that sometimes you'll end up outside of the complex on one of these balconies and they're kind of boring and serve no real purpose. Other than that, it's a very engaging and well-made area. FANDOMs is a happy medium, but also the smallest of the simulations. It's the only simulation to stay true to the original mission and succeeds in providing a viable solution to sustain life on not only this planet, but on any planet in general. The main area is this vertical column where you can jump between the domes. It's very rainy and wet. The domes themselves are pretty cool looking, though they're also plagued with the just a straight line design choice. There's a winter, spring, fall, and marsh dome. The marsh dome seems out of place because it's a biome, not a season, but it's the only one hidden away, so maybe that was like an idea that Alphys abandoned at some point. Getting into the Marsh Dome, however, oh my goodness, is it the hardest thing in the world. You need the X-ray goggles to even see the destructible wall that you have to break to get in, and you need the hover pack to get over to it. You need to shoot away the wall, and then for some reason, this one space is so hard to squeeze Coffee's body into, and you need to go here to fight Viren, so I don't know why it's so hard. I have complained about some aspect of each of these simulations, but the visual design makes up for it tenfold. The character designs of enemies are interesting and pleasing to look at, and the backgrounds are beautiful, maximalistic, well thought out backdrops that convey the personalities and personal missions of the derelicts. Cawthon really showed us his strength in design while developing this game. Everything from the Lune Infinus to Malinville is so charming and wonderful to look at that I can't help but give him props. While exploring the simulations, you will come across some of these red panels. Pressing down will transport you into these sub-levels, which utilize the game's second gameplay style, top-down dungeon crawling, which is very reminiscent of The Legend of Zelda. The objective is to find a fissure located in the area and destroy/fix it, which grants the player a conditional they can use in battle. We'll get into what that means later. While exploring these areas, enemies can randomly spawn in these rooms. They range from minor annoyances to mini-bosses, and the fissure guardians themselves are no joke. They're not the hardest to beat, but provide a good enough challenge. There are some walls you can shoot to reveal new areas, and false walls you can just walk through. And through one of these, you might find the Shopkeep. The Shopkeep is another vendor, but it only sells items viable in these sub-levels. It sells extra damage, extra bits gained from killing enemies, and health refills, which can be purchased more than once. That segues into the most useful purpose of these sub-levels, bit grinding. Time doesn't pass when you're in these levels, so you can sit here for hours just killing enemies, upgrading their bit drops, and waiting for this little rabbit guy to go over, eat this cabbage, and reward you with bits. I found myself spending quite a while sitting in these levels, grinding for bits, and after a bit, it got stale. But that's true for most games' grinding processes, so I won't hold that against it. Now onto the most recognizable and most fun part of the game, the virus battles. And strap in, cause this is gonna take a while. This is where we see the third and final gameplay style that the Desolate Hope uses, JRPG style battles. There is so much that goes on in these battles, but first let's introduce the viruses, or antiviruses. Malwaste's virus is Terototic, which has a very Pacific Islands look to him, being covered in palm leaves and spears. Miradmore's virus is Negamanity, who is a four-legged spider with a big face on its thorax. Its big-headed look really fits with Miradmore's vibe. Betagrid's virus is Puppeton, which looks very similar to one of the area's enemies. It's a floating mechanical being holding two globes, which could be mistaken for a creation of BioBetas. It looks very similar to something he'd make. The coolest, in my opinion, looking virus is the one in FANDOMs, which is Gurgurun, I think that's how you pronounce it. A mechanical dragon-looking thing connected by red lightning. There's a lot going on here, but it's pretty cool looking. All of these bosses appear 3 times in their respective simulations and get stronger with each iteration. Every simulation's 4th virus is Viren, who looks like a fun-time endoskeleton with a sun as a head. It's simplistic compared to everything else, but nonetheless intimidating. The final boss of the game is Pulsar, an acronym that hasn't been confirmed to mean anything. It kinda looks like a victim of Vashta Narada from Doctor Who, I hope I pronounced that correctly, with a skeleton-faced torso, astronaut-like helmet with skull inside, wire wings, and laser fingertips. On to how the battles work. A digital form of all the derelicts appear to aid you in battle. Their abilities work off a charge system, meaning that every time you use a move, it uses an amount of charge, and to keep using moves, you constantly have to surrender turns to allow the derelicts to charge up. Generally, the more charge a move takes, the better it is. Each derelict's moveset is wildly different in its application. They all have some direct damage dealing moves, but their others follow a trend specific to that derelict. Alphys summons wireframe helpers that can deal big damage, heal, and shield you. BioBeta can inflict viruses that can incapacitate, deal damage over time, or cause other status effects. Malins is all about status effects, upping your team's damage output, upping defense, stunning the viruses, and healing. Myriad's moves are the most interesting as they allow you to store moves to use later. You can store health, damage, charge, invincibility, revives, and autoplay. In terms of moves, I recommend keeping Alphys running Proto Wall and Med Beacon, and maybe Grid Turret when you can. Make sure to keep storing charge, revives, and autoplay with Myriad. Every so often use BioBeta's supercharge ability to speed up charge time while using a combination of Burn, Slug, and Toy Virus. And keep Malin's armor and spike plating, while also having him quick repair every so often. Make sure to keep Myriad and Malin's alive because they're the only 2 that can heal. What's good to note is that the effects of many moves like Armor Plate, Supercharge, Burn Virus, Grid Turret, etc. last for a while, so in between recharging those, use the Derelict's damaging moves. But refrain from using Myriad's Mad Slap, it's a waste of her charge. The Derelict's highest charge move is always a minigame that will appear in the top left and will provide bonuses as it's played. You can control the games manually, but with how chaotic these battles are, just take advantage of the autoplay feature Myriad offers. Remember conditionals from earlier? Well, they come into play in these sections. With conditionals, you can trigger something to happen when you do something else. For example, I could trigger a high damaging move like Solar Ball when I get a critical, or when the battle begins. Conditionals can be modified at Boxcar's Junction, which can be found in every simulation and usually isn't super hidden. These can be crucial to winning battles, so make sure you to explore and discover sublevels and fissures. We're almost done, I swear. There's just a few more things I need to speed through. First, there's hacking, which can be unlocked by finding and purchasing hack chips from vendors and purchasing the ability ability to hack from Unam. The amount of hack chips you have determines how many times you can hack per battle. You can hack almost everything, and hacking will bring that stat/condition to whatever fits your best interest. You can hack your health to 100, or you can hack your enemy strength to 0. There's also tweaking, which I never accessed in my playthrough, but to my understanding it allows you to give yourself insane buffs and your enemies insane debuffs. To access this, you need to set a conditional for the tweak meter to fill at Boxcar's Junction. Okay, so boss moves can suck. None of them are explained, you just kind of have to figure them out, but one stands above the rest as incredibly, frustratingly annoying, and that is Hackworm. Hackworm causes static to flash and blind you for seconds at a time, and I lost so many battles to specifically Gurgurun because of this. It's so annoying that even Deco9 acknowledges how much it sucks, not to mention how seizure-inducing it is. I mean, look at it. I included a warning at the beginning of this video, so hopefully this doesn't cause any problems. There's also a way to unlock Amos for use in battle. You have to collect and return 6 relics during the night sections, and when you see that Space Invaders minigame, you'll know you're on the right track. Walk all the way to the left, ignoring the minigame, and you'll find a wrench. Bring that to Amos's room and interact with him, and he will join you in battle. He has no charge and no health, and will occasionally appear to aid you with insanely overpowered moves. The only moves that really matter here are Pep Talk, Frostbite, and Ice Bomb. I only ever used Frostbite and Ice Bomb once or twice. They're extremely high damaging moves, specifically Frostbite. Ice Bomb puts like a bomb on the enemy that has like a timer that ticks down over time, and the more that you hit them, the more damage that bomb's going to do when it detonates. But Pep Talk is just crazy good. It does everything you could possibly imagine that's good for your team. Full health, revives, charge, stored ability. It's an amazing clutch move. Oh, and by the way, everything I just said is never explained. It's in the manual but not in the game. The moves are technically explained, but the battles are so fast-paced that either nobody notices this little text blurb or they can't afford to read it. You just kind of have to figure it out. While being insanely difficult, these battles are so rewarding. The amount of satisfaction that you get when you beat a boss that you've been trying to beat for quite a while it's comparable with finding netherite. That's the only way I can really describe it at this moment. This isn't even in the script, I'm just adding this at the end. I agree with many others that this is the best part of the game. It's the most fun, it's the most visually appealing, even though there's just so much going on. It's nice to look at, the sound design's pretty good, the music is spot on. It's a very fun section, and I can see why that this is the thing that draws most people in. The Desolate Hope is a very polarizing piece of media. Its themes and story turn many people away, as it can be interpreted as having pro-life sentiment, when that was never truly there. Scott Cawthon has stated that while he is a practicing Christian, he never meant the game to be interpreted in that way, and rather based the message off of experiences people close to him had with losing their children. I appreciate the Desolate Hope story for how morally gray it is at times, the barbaric nature of BioBeta's experiments which caused Coffee to steal sample 217 in the first place, and the selfish act of Coffee to create a simulation for not only sample 217, but for himself as well, and effectively deactivating everyone else in the station. The ambiguity of it all adds to my fascination. It's never explained what happened to the humans on Earth, why the station was abandoned, what happened to Coffee and Sample 217, and while I would love for a sequel to The Desolate Hope to be put underway, I think I'd much rather prefer a remake. This story feels like it's come to a conclusion, and the protagonist of the Desolate series, Coffee, seems to have as well. I know it seems like I've just been glazing this game, which admittedly I kind of am. I do recognize its glaring flaws. Almost none of the mechanics are ever explained during gameplay, the level design of the simulations and sublevels can be lackluster at times, movement in Miradmore is just plain bad, the night sections are boring, and the bright flashes of the boss battles can be disorienting, which is an issue that carried over to FNAF World. Despite all of these flaws, I still think The Desolate Hope is an amazing and fun game, and has grown to be one of my all-time favorites. Oh, you can also access a secret boss. After you beat the game, if you load back in and go into the training place for boss battles, it's inside the stations in the first room. You won't fight the training dummy, you'll fight Dummy's Return, which is the hardest boss in the game, and it takes some doing to beat him, but it is possible. I beat him on my second channel, so go try it. I really hope this game gets a second chance, either by Scott Cawthon himself or Steel Wool, or maybe even Megacat, you never know. Now this might sound crazy, but I'm gonna give The Desolate Hope a 9 to 9.5 out of 10. It is one of my favorite games of all time. Thanks for watching. This game holds a special place in my heart, as it's one of the first gameplay series on this channel. And while most of those videos aren't good, it brought me to where I am now, and I'm having a lot of fun. Maybe someday I'll cover the Desolate Room, but I'm thinking I'll probably cover Secret of the Mimic next. Or not. You never know with my upload schedule. Truly. Thank you all for watching. And thank you for 530 subscribers. See you all later, goodbye.